Hey guys, welcome back to Art with Anna. We're back from a little bit of a hiatus, and today we are going to talk about artist Lygia Clark. She is from Brazil. Her art career kind of spanned from the 1950s through the 1980s, and she is known for actually quite a few things, but we're going to focus on two of her art pieces today, the first being a two-dimensional piece, so something that is flat. So let's go over what we'll need supply-wise, and then we'll get talking a little bit about the artist. You'll need scissors, a sheet of construction paper, 4 or 5 colors of construction paper, whatever color you choose, and a glue stick. Alright, so Lygia Clark was kind of known for being a part of a movement called neo-concretism. Now, concretism is typically when art is made without any necessary emotion or motive behind it, but more made out of mathematical or scientific formulas, things that are very geometric. I would say. And neo-concretism happened a little bit later. Concretism started in the 1930s, I want to say, 20s or 30s. But in the 1950s, something was going on in Latin America. There was a controversy about murals that were happening, specifically in Mexico, but kind of all over Latin America. The government was having artists paint murals that were politically charged. They were essentially propaganda. So artists were being forced to paint things for the government, and they were kind of promoting the government's political agenda. So people like Lygia were like, we are not going to make art that supports that. That's not what we believe, and we're not going to do that. So they started a new group called the Neo, which kind of means new, concretism. And that is where they were choosing to make geometric abstract art, kind of in response to the figurative art that was being created in these murals. Kind of saying, you're not gonna make us do anything with your political agenda. So she was kind of a rebel, and that's what I like about her. And a lot of her art is very geometric. So we are gonna focus on one of those pieces, and we're gonna use the construction paper. Alright, so our first step is actually going to be grabbing out the 4 or 5 colored construction paper that you chose. And we're actually going to put them in a pile stacked on top of each other like this. We want them directly stacked on each other. And we're going to cut them out as if they were just one piece of paper. So we're going to cut them out together. The first thing we're going to do, though, is to cut our piece of paper in 3 sections. 3 kind of equal sections. So down here and down here, we'll cut those out. One section. This doesn't have to be exact, so I'm not taking a ruler out, measuring and drawing straight lines or anything. We just want an approximate 1/3. All right, so we have our 3 sections. We're still gonna keep them together like this, and we're gonna just cut out geometric shapes. So kind of at random, not any real shape, but kind of focus on more straight lines. So I'm going to cut out like this, this, and this. So you can see I'm left with kind of that shape. Now I'm going to do something a little different and continue this way of cutting different shapes out. All right, so we are left with the same shape in different colors. And okay, so the two artworks that we're focusing on today are both from the Modulated Surface series. One is number 9 and one is number 20, I believe. But over a few years, Lygia Clark made these kind of series of paintings, and the focus of them was the theme of a plane, about like not an airplane and not something that is boring, but a plane in reference to space. So when you are looking at something three-dimensional, it kind of is a part of different planes of view. And she was interested in taking things that were three-dimensional and painting them in a way that they were flat. So kind of playing with that idea of space and with shape. So taking shapes and what would happen to them if we made them flat, and how would that change their shape? What would it look like? So we are going to do the same. We are going to just take shapes, look at them on a flat plane, and place them on a flat plane. You can be kind of thinking in your brain what kind of shape it would make if it was three-dimensional, but we will focus more on three-dimensional things in our next project in this video. All right, this is this third section that we cut out, and then the different shapes that I cut out from that. So here's all of our different shapes. We're gonna pick a color of our top shape. It doesn't matter what color, I'm just gonna start with the first one because it's easiest. We are going to stick that right there, and I'm going to glue that down. The next step, we'll be picking a different color from the second section. So I will be taking this light blue color and I'll be gluing that there. And we're going to repeat. I'm going to take an even different color from the third section. And again. And you can repeat colors, I just wouldn't put two of the same colors next to each other. So put some pink here. And then red. So I'm going to take all of these and glue them down on this spot. All right, so I've glued these all down. And now we have one of two options. We can either use these same shapes and just turn all of them around, which I'm going to try to do one-handed, and use the top shape. This is the top shape before, and use it on the bottom. So we'll have a different series of shapes, and you can do them again in different colors, and we'll do another row. Or you're welcome to take one of these two and just cut out different shapes and do the same process here. But we want to make sure that no two shapes are next to the same color. So we wanted these colors to be different, but we'll also want these colors to be different going down. All right, so now we have our modulated surface, much like Lygia's modulated surfaces. We are going to see kind of an evolution in her art. So concretism based itself on things that we can see, concrete objects. A lot of Clark's work was, again, based on planes. And the idea of taking something that was three-dimensional, think like a cube, and how could we change it or view it so that we could make it into a two-dimensional shape. So like this painting here, the shapes come from a cube. She was just thinking about the concrete object of the cube, but how to view it differently. So you can see shapes that are kind of diamond shapes, like if I were to skew the object a little bit like this. You see some square shapes, some triangles, so that's if you were to look at the cube in half, right? Half of a square is a triangle. So she's just taking one object and viewing it from different ways, and that is how she makes a cube, which is something that has many planes, and makes it flat. and a part of just a single plane in a painting. So that's big on concretism. When we move forward to the sculpture that she, the types of sculptures that she made, the little beasts or the little bugs, that is more art that she's physically playing around with. So she keeps the same idea, but now she's making her three-dimensional objects out of flat objects, and she's making them so you can move them around instead of making a typical sculpture that's something that has a front and a back and a top and a bottom and typically doesn't move. She's kind of breaking that down. She's kind of breaking down that notion of that. So I think that's kind of cool. She started kind of dabbling later in her career in conceptual art, which is art that has more to do with a concept than it does the actual art that's made. And so some people do think that she was kind of grappling with the concept of death while making these sculptures as well. And that could be, I'm not sure. She kind of dabbled in both concretism and then eventually conceptualism. So let's move on. Let's make this sculpture and let's see how she can use two-dimensional shapes put together to make three-dimensional shapes. Okay. So bicho in Portuguese means kind of little critter or a little bug. And I think that possibly she was naming it that because these sculptures were meant to be moving. They can be arranged in a bunch of different ways, and there's no right or wrong way to arrange them or to look at them. So remember, she wasn't really interested in, at least in the beginning, at evoking emotion. However, these sculptures are a little bit different. People believe that she was grappling with the idea of death and how it's trying to figure out what it means and how it's this always moving, not concrete thing. So possibly that was the case with these. But these are just really cool because they're a bunch of flat shapes that are put together. They're made out of metal with hinges. And they literally can be arranged any way. She didn't have a certain way that she wanted them set up. So I think a lot of this is, again, her idea of the fact that art isn't necessarily the end goal, but it's more like the process of making it that is the art. So I think the process of making these cool sculptures, being able to make it however you want, people at museums will set them up in a way that's different than the last museum they were at. They're just really unique. So we're gonna make our own today. We don't have metal and we don't have hinges. All right, for this project you will need 3 squares of cardstock, 1 pair of scissors, and some tape. Something really neat about the bicho is that they, when they were folded, were flat. Again, she liked playing with planes and things being 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional, so we're going to take 2 squares really of cardstock. I just folded them into different shapes, into these triangles. Here's 4 triangles, here's 2 triangles, just because hers were often folded, and she was interested in how triangles make up squares and things of that nature. So feel free to put some folds in this if you want. If not, that's fine too. So I have 2 squares, and I'm going to use the 3rd square and cut it up into different shapes, different triangles, and then we are going to tape the different triangles in between, but we want it to be able to fold so that the 2 squares end up on top of each other and flat. All right, so I have my 2 squares here, and I want them to connect, and I want to use other shapes out of cardstock to connect them. I might give you guys some extra shapes too, like rectangles, so I'll add that in here too. All right, so I am just going to tape one of my shapes, and this is, you don't have to copy me, but we're just going to tape 2 shapes together on an edge. So I am choosing this edge of the piece of paper, and I am running some tape along it. Like that. I've got a little more tape where I can stick the other shape. just like that. And I'm gonna cut off the excess. I have some excess here, some excess here, so I'm just gonna cut those off. All right, so we have our main square, and now I have this shape on top. So I have another edge that I'm just gonna add another shape to. Basically, we're just taping shapes together. So our main square, a triangle, a rectangle. I'm going to add one more triangle, and then our other square. Spots. Now I could fold this up and make it stand like that. Or I could make it stand like this, a different shape. Or if I really wanted to, we could fold them up. And try to come up with a way that they just kind of fold together into a two-dimensional shape. So this looks like something you could just stick on the wall, but depending on how we spread it out, you can have a sculpture any way that you'd like. And this is exactly like Lygia Clark's bichots. Thanks for learning with me today about Lygia Clark. I hope you guys had a blast doing some of these really geometric projects, but also learning about the rebel and legend of Lygia Clark. All right, have a great week. I'll see you guys later. Bye.